Attack on Titan, the final season, season 4, it's here, it's airing, and honestly, I'm just so excited. I watched the first episode a few days ago now, and I thought I might make this video and let you guys know some of my thoughts on the episode, as well as my predictions for the rest of the series. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, please consider subscribing, and if you enjoy the video, leave a like. We're trying to hit 300 subscribers by the end of this year, so if there's anything you can do to help, I would really appreciate it. But with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So first things first, I just want to clear up that if you haven't seen the first episode of season 4, or if you haven't seen seasons 1 to 3 of Attack on Titan, then this video will technically contain spoilers. But for those of you that are up to date with Attack on Titan, don't worry, I am an anime only watcher and I will not be giving any manga spoilers. I know the exact same amount of information as you do. Although if you are someone that hasn't seen seasons 1 to 3 and you might want some convincing to get into the series, then check out my spoiler-free review. Okay, so episode 1 is here. It's finally happening, and there are some very interesting things that we saw in this episode. Let's begin with the opening. The new opening is something a lot of people were complaining about, and I can understand why. It's not very catchy and it doesn't have those sort of memorable moments that some of the other openings have. I think it really sets the tone. It gives the vibe of an army psyching themselves up before a grand battle. And I also appreciate the fact that there's no noticeable spoilers in this opening, but thankfully this opening is not one of them. In my opinion, I don't think it really deserves the stick that it's getting online. It's honestly not that bad. So now let's talk about what actually happened in the episode. We're thrown into the middle of a battle 4 years after what happens in season 3, and we don't immediately get a glimpse of our main trio. We don't actually see them for the entire episode. And I think that's an interesting choice. It's certainly building up the hype for the next few episodes. We get introduced to a few new characters, the most significant ones being Falco, who is in line to inherit the Beast Titan, as well as Gabi and Colt. They're both competing to earn the inheritance of the Armored Titan. I think the most interesting one of these three would be Gabi. She seems to be the most resourceful and strategic minded. If I was to make a prediction, I think she's going to become a very significant character later on in the story. If I was to make a prediction for her character, it would be one of two things. She could either inherit a Titan's power and become a very troublesome and hard to beat enemy, or she might die and then Colt would come and fill in her shoes, like with a more desire for revenge. I'm only basing this on the one episode that I've seen, but I think she will become a very significant character. And so the episode continues and we learn more about the discrimination against the Eldian race. We first hear about this through Grisha Yeager's story. The Eldian race are people who inherit the abilities of Titans, and they're pretty much prisoners to the Malian Empire. I think the author drew inspiration from the treatment of the Jewish people in Nazi Germany. They definitely have their similarities. For example, the Eldians have to wear armbands just as the Jewish people had to do in Nazi Germany. We also get to see just how worthless and disposable they're seen as, when the general was willing to sacrifice 800 Eldian soldiers without batting an eyelid. I think the idea of them being victims is an interesting element to the storyline, and it definitely adds a bit more depth to the Titan characters. Now in the episode, we get to see the Malian Empire really begin their operation in this war. And they use a very interesting strategy. A bunch of Eldians are tied up and thrown out of an airship. They are then transformed into Titans just from the Beast Titan's voice. They are then dropped onto the enemy base like Titan bombs, and it just shows the usage of the Titans is changing. I think as the season continues, the Titans will have to become more resourceful and find more unique tactics. The reason I say this is also because of the final and overarching message of this episode. The Titans no longer have the massive advantage of raw and brute strength that they had before. The reason being that the outside societies have developed stronger and more powerful anti-Titan weaponry. Way more sophisticated than anything we've seen used by the Survey Corps. Until this point, the Titans and the humans had a huge difference in power, with only a few specific characters being able to stand up against the more powerful titans. But in this episode, we get the explicit image of Reiner's armored titan being completely torn apart by the anti-titan weaponry. This armored titan was the source of so much struggle for all of our characters, and to see him being completely ripped to shreds, it just shows that the playing field is becoming more and more even. And finally, that ending song. Man, I think it was actually one of the best parts of this episode. This ending song has such a deep and sad vibe, and I just know that this sort of ending is gonna feel 100 times more emotional as we continue into the series. This season is setting out to be a great conclusion to this amazing anime, especially with the manga readers singing its praises and saying for some that it's the best part of Attack on Titan out of all of them. And I don't know if this is just a rumor, but I heard from somewhere that Eren's voice actor began crying just from reading the script of his part. Honestly, hearing things like that just gets me so excited for this season. Apart from that, I don't think there's really much else I can say. All I know is I'm really excited to experience Attack on Titan Season 4, the final season. I think I might make another video when it hits halfway through Attack on Titan, maybe to test some of the predictions I mentioned in this video. So if you want to see that, please subscribe. But for now, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!